You know what you should do? You should follow me on Twitter at Brommer018. Link in the description. Do it now. Hello guys, Brommer here. Thanks for joining me once again in another FIFA 21 Tactics video. If you're new here, this is a series where I show you how to recreate and adapt real life tactics and systems in FIFA 21 so that they will actually work in game. Now, I put a vote out recently compiling a list of the most suggested tactics from you guys in the comment sections. We had 4 altogether and it was a pretty resounding win for Jose Mourinho's Tottenham Hotspur system. Nearly half of you did vote for that one, so that's the one that we are going to be coming on to today. So really looking forward to this one. Had lots of people suggesting it, and so what we do, if you've, like I say, if you're new here, first off, I'll show you any sort of position changes that we need to do where we change a couple of base positions. In this one we have done so. Then we'll go into the tactics and I'll go through them, run through and explain the reasoning why, and then we'll finish off with the player instructions, and I will also show you suitable players that you should sign if you're in career mode or what have you, to best replicate that sort of role and the person who plays in that position. So first off, we are going to start with the positioning. Now, we should start off with by saying this tactic, you know, Mourinho teams, very, very hard to pinpoint the sort of system. So, you know, with like a Guardiola or a Klopp, they have the same sort of principles and system for, you know, pretty much every game, and they just make little tweaks here and there, depending on the opposition. Whereas obviously Jose is known for tactically adapting, so every game the team can just be completely different in the way that they set up. So what we've gone for today is, I've gone for the one that people will know the most in terms of the big game, you know, setups. You know, so when they play the likes of Manchester City, which we saw them do that recently, the likes of Liverpool, etc., etc., big European games, it will set up in a certain way, and that's to counter the opposition, to drop back, to frustrate them, and to be compact, and like I say, hit them on with the deadly counters on the break that the Mourinho teams have been so known for, you know, throughout the years. So that's the one we've gone for today. So I would suggest early on is that you use this system for those sort of games. If you're coming up against teams who are, let's say you're in career mode, you're playing against one of the teams lower down in the league, etc., you expect them to drop behind the ball, then maybe you switch it up, this tactic, and go for another one. But when you're playing against in the big games, the big teams, you want to sacrifice possession, and you believe you can do that, then this is the system to go for. So, with the positioning, we've changed to, we've gone with the 4-2-3-1 formation, but as you'll see, we've changed Heung-Min Son and Gareth Bale to right and left wing. So there was a lot of playing around with this when I was doing the tactic, and when I had them at right and left midfield, which is what I did originally, it just didn't work attacking-wise. We didn't have as much sort of cutting edge on the break. They didn't get into advanced positions enough. They didn't run in behind enough. When I change them to right wing and left wing, it makes such a difference. Oh my word, you know, I can't even explain how much of a difference it makes, and that's something to bear in mind for tactics in the future. Whenever you guys are making any tactic of any sort, you know, bear that in mind, because there is such a difference compared to midfield and wing, and that's one of the reasons why we've changed wing backs to, or fullbacks or wing backs in the past as well, for that very reason. It works out the same principle for the wingers as well. So yep, just change those two. You don't need to change any other positions. Other than that, you've got the base set from the original 4-2-3-1, and now we can move into the tactics. So we've had a brief glimpse of this already, and we'll start off with the defensive style, which is to drop back. So the best thing about this is that, yeah, so they generally drop back, but if ever in a moment in the game in FIFA you feel like you want to press the opposition, you've got a good opportunity, you can then turn on team press through the D-pad options, which gives you that sort of versatility, you know, a bit of variety. You can switch it up a little bit in game, which you will often see from Mourinho's side, but generally in those big games you'll see them drop back, get back into their shape, and then we can come onto the depth as well. They'll get him back to that relatively low block, which is why we have this on 3 here. In terms of the width, we've got this on 2, and this is something that you'll find generally from defensive systems. They're going to get very, very narrow. They're going to make the opposition play around them, force them to put crosses into the box. You don't need to get out to them as much. in the gameplay. We just sort of really get a fullback or a winger if he's marking the opposition wing back onto that sort of area. Otherwise, you know, you've got that nice solid compact system in the defensive phase of play. So moving on to offensively now. First off, we have fast build-up, and that is a brilliant emphasis on the counter-attack, and you'll notice it becomes such a deadly feature for us in the gameplay on the right-hand side. When Arsenal commit men forward, we're able to then, you know, utilise the spaces left behind and punish them in that sense. So, yep, very, very handy there. And in terms of the attacking width, we have this on 8. So, you're going to get very wide, stretch the play out, utilise the wings, then you create more space for people like Ndombele and Harry Kane in the middle. You're also getting people like Bale and Son who are out on the wing, giving them more opportunity to utilise their pace and to run in behind, which is very, very handy indeed. With players in the box, I have this up to 6 because then it gives you the opportunity to have 3 players in the box. So that's roughly what they go for. The holding midfielders don't commit and get into the box very, very often at all. So usually it's the likes of the wingers or Harry Kane or maybe Ndombele, who you'll see in this game is very, very effective when getting into the opposition box. So you have that on 6 and it'll give you a nice balanced 3 players there. And finally, with corners and free kicks, same thing for every video. Move this up to 4, then it leaves you 2 men back, which is more than enough to deal with any opposition counter attack that may arise. But then you have an extra target in the box, just to give you a little bit more of a threat, more of a potent threat from those situations, because they're relatively hard to score from, you know, wide free kicks and corners in general. So that's very handy there. So tactics are done. Now we can move on to the player instructions. So what we'll do is we'll start off with Hugo Lloris in goal, and we'll gradually work our way up the field, suggesting suitable players along the way. So first off with Hugo Lloris, everyone comes across in sweeper keeper. Now obviously you're playing a very deep line, but the reason I still have this on sweeper keeper is just in case, you know, just to help you, particularly on FIFA when the over-the-top through ball is so overpowered and it's easy for people to counter-attack on you, particularly if you're playing online. This will just give you that extra layer of protection. The keeper can come out and defend those over-the-top through balls that are, you know, causing a problem for you. So yeah, generally because you're playing a deeper line, you won't need it as much, but it's just in case. And the same when it comes across as well, you release a bit of pressure from you. Keepers are relatively overpowered in those situations, so if it comes across, it does just relieve a bit of pressure on you from there. With the 2 centre backs, we have kept them the same as sort of alluded to earlier. You know, we've got Alderweireld and Dyer at centre back, and I feel like those two are the best pair. You know, we've got Sanchez, Joe Rodon should be around here somewhere, although I can't find him, so that's very handy. No, never mind. Don't know why he's not in the team, but there you go. So yeah, these two for me are probably the best option. I mean, Sanchez has got a bit more pace, as you can see, so if you're worried about that sort of thing, then you can probably switch him in for Dyer, but like I say, with a lower line, shouldn't be as important. Now, with the fullbacks, this can be very important because they've got 2 different roles here. So what you'll notice with a Mourinho team, and I spoke about this about a year ago when I covered his Real Madrid formation, is Mourinho has a certain way of setting up his fullbacks. And the way he does that is one fullback will attack, will go forward and it'll overlap on the attack. When that happens, the other fullback will stay back generally and he will help to form a back 3. And so obviously you can't recreate that exactly in FIFA because the tactic system is just very, very basic and needs upgrading, but that's a whole other story. So what we have to do here is we have to alter their roles permanently. So we've got one on stay back, which is Matt Doherty in this case, and we've got one who's on join the attack and overlap, which is Sergio Reguilon. So if you're using this with another team, then obviously you have to make that own decision, which one you prefer to get forward, who you think will be better going backwards. I've chosen Doherty to stay back and Reguilon to go forward in this because, for one, Matt Doherty's attributes on this are an absolute train wreck. EA have completely botched his stats, his attributes. They're all wrong for some reason. He's very slow. His finishing is only 62, which baffles me because that's one of the better areas of his game. I'm pretty sure he used to be a striker as well, so it's worth bearing that in mind. His strength is like you know, botched. Everything's just botched, basically, in Matt Doherty's attributes. So going forward, he's not going to be as good, particularly because he's relatively slow as well. Whereas Sergio Reguilon, faster, got more energy, you know, better sort of attacking attributes in general. So he's more effective going forward as well. Plus, you've also got Matt Doherty, who's a bit taller as well. So if they do put a long ball forward to hit you on the counter attack, etc., then he's better to deal with that, you know, in terms of the air and trying to battle people off and things along those lines. So I've gone with Doherty to stay back and Reguilon to go forward, join the attack and overlap. Again, you guys can choose. I'll make the suitable players based on the fullbacks that I've got. But like I say, you guys can opt that whichever way you want. So next we have the two holding midfielders, and actually they have both got pretty much the same roles, other than one, which we'll come on to. So I've gone with Harry Winks and Højbjerg. As of recording this recently, it's been more Sissoko and Højbjerg, but you know, I'm a massive Winks fan, and people who follow me on Twitter will know that because, you know, I don't shut up about him. But you know, so I've gone with Winks and Højbjerg, and I think Winks gives you that more of that deep line playmaker ability, whereas if you've got someone like Sissoko, you've got two centre mids there who do sort of pretty much the same thing. You know, they're both these sort of big-bodied, sort of holding central midfielders, lots of energy, quite aggressive, but you know, not in particular, not like a playmaker on the ball. You know what I mean? Unlike Harry Winks, who I think adapts to that D-line playmaker role really well. So we've got Harry Winks and Højbjerg, and both of them are on stay back while attacking. The two holding midfielders very, very rarely adventuring forward. It's just not in the Mourinho system. He likes the front four with the 4-2-3-1 to go forward, and then a fullback as well joins the attack. And generally, these two guys, they're there to offer like protection from the counter attack and as a defensive sort of wall in general, but also they give you a pivot as well. You know, you can rest opposition, you can recycle possession higher up the pitch with those two guys as well, sort of remaining in those deeper areas. So that's pretty handy. So we have them both on stay back while attacking, and also cut passing lanes. Man marking in this game is very, very irrelevant because the players just don't do it, in particular the midfielders as well. Everyone will notice this whenever the opposition's on the attack and they've probably ventured into the attacking third. Your midfielders will just stand there and just watch things unfold. So you may as well just have them on cut passing lanes. With man mark, it just becomes completely irrelevant. At least with cutting those lanes, you have the ability to prevent attacks beforehand a little bit more effectively. But with defensive positioning, however, alluded to it just, there is a slight change. Now, Harry Winks here, he's on cover wing. And the reason he's on cover wing is because Reguilon and Son will, of course, generally both be attacking. They'll both be getting forward. So Winks is there to fill out those spaces if the opposition counter. Whereas with Højbjerg, he's on cover centre. And the reason he's on cover centre is because obviously Doherty isn't going to be venturing forward in this system. So he doesn't need to come out wide because that will already be protected. He can prevent counter-attacks through the middle of the pitch. So that just gives that balance. Now, again, if one of you guys have gone with your right back overlapping and then your left back staying back, then just reverse those. Just have the left defensive midfielder on cover centre and then the right defensive midfielder on cover wing. And that will fill out very nicely. So we now move on to the attacking four. We're going to start off with Ndombele here, and as you can see if you've been looking at the gameplay at all on the right hand side, you'll notice just the effects he has. He was very, very enjoyable to play with, and that's a sort of thing that sort of brings his system alive a little bit. Just sort of the bit of quality from those individual attacking players and what they can bring to the system. So first off, we have them on comeback on defence, and that's what you'll find throughout this entire team. All these attackers will track back and do their defensive duties, such as the you know, style of a Mourinho team. And with support on crosses, we have this on balance. So again, because we only have 3 getting into the box from our tactics, with balance you can just sort of get that nice sort of variation between if Bale or Son are crossing it in, then he'll get in, and if not, and they're already in the box, then he'll sort of stay on the outside and give that extra layer of protection and the ability to pick it up should it be cleared to the edge of the area. So that's pretty handy. And then with position freedom, we have him on free roam. You just want to try and get him into the game as much as possible, really. So particularly someone like Ndombele with so much technical ability and the ability just to to impact the game from so many different positions and areas on the pitch. He can come deep if he needs to. He can drift out onto either side and lay it off with people and set people up. Very, very handy. So with positioning freedom, you know, you get that ability to do that. So next up we have the two wingers, and first off with Gareth Bale, we have him on comeback on defence, as I already mentioned. All of them will be the same, and then we have him on getting behind for the support runs as well. So that's what's going to give you the best counter-attacking influence. It's going to feed into Harry Kane as well, who we come on to shortly with his role. So he's going to utilise his pace to penetrate the defensive line of the opposition, and we'll also have him on getting to the box for crosses as well, as sort of already explained. But with chance creation, we wanted to cut inside, so we wanted to angle his runs as much as possible. We also wanted to fill in that space where Kane will be dropping off, and that's something, like I say, we'll talk about shortly. But when Kane drops off, as we've seen so many times, because his passing ability is just sublime, the likes of Son and Bale will angle their runs, and it might not be Bale, it might be Steven Bergwijn, it might be Lucas Moura, etc. It could be a whole range of different wingers, but the role is pretty much the same. And if we go over to Son on the other side, you get generally it's pretty much the same, apart from with chance creation, we have this on balance rather than cut inside or stay wide. And the reason why we do is because with Heung-Min Son, you've got someone who is he's just ambipedal, and what I mean by that is he's two-footed, and he can go on either foot and he can go on either side, and he looks completely natural, and it just doesn't matter to him. So with that, you can get him going past and going out wide and overlapping and getting to the byline, and it's still being as effective for him. So with balance, you just get more of that variation in the way he attacks. So make sure, as with the suitable players that I'll suggest, that the left winger is a little bit more two-footed and can go on either side naturally, and either have good crossing attributes or good finishing attributes as well. Finally, on to the main man, Harry Kane, and attacking runs false nine. So I should probably start with this, and the reason why is because obviously you get him dropping off, and then you get the two wingers and potentially the attacking midfielder running on in behind as well. And hopefully you guys will see that in play with Ndombele in the second goal. We do win 2-1 in the end on the game. And then, you know, you get Ndombele running past and running into the box as well as Bale and Son, and it allows him to have those passing options, to pick up those positions deep, and then have a reason to you know, to lay it off and to pass it off. So that's really, really handy. And then with defensive support, we have him on comeback on defence. Something that's been pointed out so much this season, in particular in the live games from punditry teams, is how Harry Kane ends up finding himself in his own box, you know, making really important blocks and winning the ball, etc. And that's because everyone in this team just tracks back. Everyone does their defensive duties. It's an extremely fluid formation when it comes to defending. And so, you know, everyone gets back, as I say. And then you can work the ball at the field as fast as possible through running and through movement. That's how he allows you to do counter-attack. So with, you know, smashing the ball at the field when you win the ball, you can't really do that as much. You've got to try and play it from the back, but you've got to do it at speed. And that's what you try and do, you know, as much as possible. With support runs, I have this on balance again, because a lot of times we see Kane coming out wide, holding the ball up, looking to allow space and gaps for the movement of the other attacking players, the likes of the wingers and the attacking midfielder. So, you know, with balance, you can just drift wide in certain situations. You get that nice bit of variation and balance as well. So that's pretty handy. Right, so we do come to an end to this video. That was the Mourinho tactics for Tottenham Hotspur. If you've got any questions at all, please do let me know, and I will do my best to get back to you. Lots of people sort of getting at me with questions and stuff, so that's always handy. I'll always do my best to answer those questions. Any suggestions? I mean, they keep coming in all the time, so I'm sure you guys will keep hitting me up about that. Please be sure to check out all my other videos as well. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so that you get notifications every time I upload, and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it as well. Don't forget to subscribe to my second channel, Brommer Ball, where we talk about real football. Hoping to get some more content out on that soon, and follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description for that. And I know we are going to finish it off there. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you soon.